Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. Today we're doing a BGCSE past paper review for Combined Science Paper 1 from the year 2022. Please remember, before you start the examination, you should always write your school number, your candidate number, you should always write a surname and also your initials. Again, please remember to read through the instructions carefully to ensure that you understand each instruction. If you should have any questions or queries, please clarify those with your examiner before you begin the examination. They will also provide you with a very nice periodic table to assist you with any question relating to chemistry or anything involving elements, compounds, molecules, and so on. Now, with that being said, let us jump into question number 1. Question number 1 reads, which row states correct information about plant and animal cells? And I marked off the ones that are not appropriate or correct for the given cell with an X. And so therefore option C is correct, which indicates that animal cells do not have chloroplast, but plant cells, they do have chloroplast. All right, for question number 2, it said that the diagram shows a mixture of elements and compounds. It said how many different types of elements are displayed in the diagram? And let me just quickly run through this one. The one in black, that is a diatomic molecule, which means that it's a molecule with the same element. And so this one here, this structure right here, it is, let me just make a line right there. This is a compound. Why is a compound? Because it is a combination of two different elements. And we have this element separate by itself with the line through it. We also have this element here separate by itself with unshaded. So I want to point out here that even though this is a molecule, the one in black, it is a single element that combined with itself. So the one in black is a form of element. The unshaded one is also an element, and the one that the line through it is also an element. So therefore, based on what they're asking us, is that how many different types of elements are present here? And so the answer will be 3. All right, so we have 3 different elements present. All right, and so if they have asked you how many compounds present, it will be 1 compound, right? Because this is, the one in black is a molecule, not a compound. That's the difference. A compound must have 2 different elements in it, right? All right, so question number 3 is a Sarah sprayed on perfume before leaving for work. The scent spread throughout the house very slowly. It's a which process is responsible for this? And this is diffusion, because the perfume particles spread from an area of high concentration to a low concentration until it is evenly distributed. All right, and so that is diffusion. Remember that osmosis is the movement of water molecules from a very high concentration to a low concentration, and it must go across a semi-permeable membrane. All right, let's go to question number 4. And question number 4 reads that a student needed to find the volume of a rock. It said the arrow on the cylinder on the left shows the volume of water before the rock was dropped in, and the arrow on the cylinder on the right shows the volume of water after the rock was dropped in. And so for a very simple calculation, you're going to minus the cylinder with only water from the one with the water and the rock. So it's going to be 40 minus 30, give you 10 centimeters cube. And so therefore option A is the correct answer here. For question number 5, it's a which row states correct information about the arrangement and movement of molecules of water in the solid state. So looking for a solid state. And if water is a solid state, which is ice pretty much, anything that is in a solid state, they have a fixed or a regular shape. And so therefore the arrangement must be regular. So off the bat, A and B, they are incorrect because the shape is not just random, or the arrangement is not just random. They're in a fixed or regular pattern. For the movement of the particles, for solid, they do not move freely. So therefore they only vibrate about their fixed position. So therefore option D is the correct answer. For question number 6, it asks, which is the correct road equation for photosynthesis? And photosynthesis is water reacting with carbon dioxide to produce glucose and oxygen. Again, please remember that this requires light and also chlorophyll that will absorb the light. All right, so on the arrow, you could put light or sunlight, and then you could put on the bottom chlorophyll. But chlorophyll is not necessarily have to, it's not a compulsion to write it, right? But just to indicate what the things that are needed for this process to take place. Again, I will also advise you to make sure you understand or know the chemical balance equation for photosynthesis as well, and of course a respiration. All right. Now, question number 7 is a student has several oranges of equal mass, each having the same mass as shown by the reading on the balance below. So he said that all the oranges, they have the same mass, and so therefore the reading on this triple bean balance, so notice there are 3 bean, so therefore the mass here is going to be 100 plus 40 plus 2, and so therefore the mass of each orange will be 142 grams. Now we said how many oranges should be placed on the scale for a total of 426 grams. So what we're going to do, if each is 142, just divide 426 by 142, and so we get 3, and so therefore B is the correct answer. That is a relatively easy question, I must say. All right. For question number 8, it said, I'm jumping a little bit too fast. Let me go back a little bit. Question number 8, right. For question number 8, it said, which choice shows the 3 main groups of elements in the correct order from the lowest conductivity to the highest conductivity, and looking from the lowest. And so in terms of conductivity, metal is the highest conductivity, so metal must be last, non-metals will be the least, and metalloids, which is the spin properties of both metals and non-metals, will be in the middle right there. All right, so question number 10, let me just delete this. Question number 10, 9 actually, it said identify the main type of energy transferred that occur when a flashlight is turned on. And so the correct answer is A, because then the batteries you'll have chemicals, so it's a chemical energy, then turn to electrical energy, then you get light. All right, and of course you can also get light and heat, because depends on the bulb of the flashlight, you'll be produce some amount of heat as well. So A is correct. All right, so jumping on to question number 10 now. It said which food is a good source of fiber? And fiber is the same thing as roughage, right? So anything with plant materials, plant source, will be high in fiber or roughage. And so option A is correct. The egg, milk, and pork will give a certain amount of protein, and the milk may provide you with a little bit of calcium as well. Eggs also have fat in it as eggs, they do have fat in it. All right. So, but the general thing will be protein if they should ask. All right. Question number 11. It said which term best describe aluminum ability to be hammered into different shapes or rolled into flat sheets? And so to shape any metal at all, the process that is called there, or the property, is malleability. So it is malleable. All right. Just to make mention of the word ductile. Ductile means that it can be drawn into wires. All right. And high density, which means a lot of mass per volume. All right. So which means a lot of particles in a given volume of the substance. And of course, aluminum is not high density, to be honest with you. Aluminum is tend to be a light piece of metal. Luster refers to how shiny it is. Aluminum is do shiny, but based on the question, they asked to be hammered in different shape, and so therefore malleability is the correct answer. All right, so number 12 is which kind of energy is associated with the position and motion of an object? And just to make a note, once you talk about position, we're talking about potential energy. Once you talk about motion, you talk about kinetic energy. And so therefore mechanical energy is the correct answer, because mechanical is both potential and kinetic. All right. And so when you talk about mechanical energy of a system, you're talking about the total potential and the kinetic energy of that system. All right. So question number 13. All right. And question number 13 says which substances are dissolved in human blood plasma? And the correct answer here is glucose, hormone, and urea. Hemoglobin will not be dissolved. It's actually present in the plasma, but it is used to absorb oxygen and also carbon dioxide. All right, and it's able to transport those. And so therefore A and B will be out of it. Starch is totally incorrect. Starch can't dissolve in blood. As a matter of fact, we do not have starch in our blood. We break down starch into glucose, and the glucose is now able to dissolve in the blood and be transported to different cells. All right, so C is the correct answer for that one by virtue of elimination. All right, question number 14. It said, what is the electron configuration of aluminum 3+ ion? And so, just to make a note that the atom for aluminum has 13 electrons, and so therefore the electron configuration here is 2A3. But when it forms an ion, for it to become positive, it means that it gave away these 3 electrons, and so therefore aluminum 3 plus must be 2,8, and so therefore option A is correct. All right, let me jump into question number 15. It says, which of the following is the rate at which work is done? And so rate at which work is done is actually power, because power is equal to work over time, and time is the rate for doing that amount of work. All right, so C is correct for 15. Question number 16, it said the diagram shows the human digestive system. It said which part is responsible for the absorption of digested food? And so let me just quickly go down into that. We have the liver, we have the stomach, we have small intestine, we have large intestine. And which part is responsible to absorb digested food? I never highlight this one, but it will be the small intestine, because small intestine will contain what they call villi, and villi, they will absorb the food. So option C is correct. All right. Now, question number 17 is which process is used to obtain a dissolved solute from a solution? So you want to get the solute, which is, for example, you want to get salt from water. And to get the salt from water, for example, you do want to evaporate the water. So evaporation is the correct answer here. All right. If you want to get the water, then you do distillation. All right. All right. And of course, you need to go through all of these processes of separation. Please make sure you know them. That's very important. For question number 18, is which diagram correctly shows a ray of light reflected by a plane mirror. All right. And so just to make a note that the angle of incident must equal to the angle of reflection. And so therefore option A is incorrect, because you have 40 and 50. You should have 40 and 40 or 50 and 50. So B is also incorrect. Matter of fact, B is the same thing as A, if you notice it, because here is 50. This must be 40, because the total of 90 on this side. And so therefore A and B are the same exact thing. So those two are incorrect. C, this is 40 and 50 is the same. So it is same as A and B. And so this one is correct one, showing 40 and 40. I mean, I put this in red because we know if this is 50, here must be 40, and so this must be 40. Angle of incident must equal the angle of reflection. All right, so option D was the correct one for 18. For question number 19, it said name the major blood vessel that takes deoxygenated blood. This is very important. That takes deoxygenated blood from the heart to from the body. All right, so it's taking deoxygenated blood to the heart from the body, and so the major vein, I say major vein, the major blood vessel, which is a vein, in fact, because once you're going towards the heart, it must be a vein. And so therefore that big vein in the body, the major vein, is the vena cava. Aorta takes oxygenated blood from the heart to the body. And coronary artery, they are the one that responsible to take blood to the muscles of the heart. And the pulmonary artery, once your pulmonary is going towards, well, it's associated with the lungs, but guess what? The pulmonary vein is the only vein that carries oxygenated blood. So it takes oxygenated blood from the lungs to the heart. All right. And of course, pulmonary artery, as you know, is the only artery that carries deoxygenated blood. So things like that you should pay attention to and make sure you know for your examination. Now, question number 20. It said, which of the mixtures shown is described as immiscible? And the word immiscible means they're unable to mix. All right. So oil and water, they cannot mix, so they are immiscible. All right. No need to explain that. And that's something that all of us, I think, will remember from doing even our BGCSE exams. All right, for question number 21, is that when light waves pass from air into glass, refraction takes place. All right, and notice refraction is the bending of light, just to make mention to that. And so, what property of the wave remains the same in both air and glass? And so, the one that answer is actually frequency, which means the amount of waves generated per second. All right, and so the frequency is the same. However, the direction will change because of the bending. The speed will change because of change in wavelength. All right, and of course, again, wavelength will change as well. All right, so question number 22 is which statement is correct about gonorrhea, and which the STD, and of course, almost all STD can lead to miscarriage, but that's not the direct effect anyway. Depends on the severity of the disease. It can cause wart growing near the genital node. That's actually called genital wart, which is not necessarily associated with gonorrhea. Gonorrhea is merely an infection. So what you have here is burning sensation when urinating. So option C is correct. And of course, depending on how bad it is, it can help damage the immune system for real. But again, the burning sensation is one of the main symptoms of gonorrhea. All right, question number 23. It said, which of the following properties is enhanced when chromium is added to steel? And chromium is what we use to coat steel to make it really shiny. And so the main thing it will do here is really to resist corrosion, which means prevent the steel from reacting with oxygen and water to cause rust. All right, so option D is the correct answer there. But question number 24, it said a sound wave travels from point X to point Y. And it said, notice here, X and Y right here. It said which diagram represents the movement of the air molecules due to the sound wave in the region between X and Y. And just to make a note that sound wave is a longitudinal wave. And so what you're going to have is something called compression and refraction. And so for this to happen, it will be represented by D, which means a back and forth movement. For B, it's really for transverse wave, and sound wave is not a transverse wave, so you're not going to have that. Up and down, you're not going to have that as well, because the C is actually indicating the movement of particles as in B. So the answer here is actually D. All right, and again, because you have the compression and refraction, which mean a back and forth movement. Just if you think about like a speaker moving, you notice the speaker move in and out, so it's kind of the same action. Question number 25, and we are midway in this review. It said, what is the product of anaerobic respiration formed in the muscle during vigorous exercise? And the anaerobic respiration there is lactic acid fermentation. So what we're going to produce is lactic acid, and that is the substance that causes cramping or burning of the muscles if you undergo vigorous exercise. All right, so lactic acid is the correct answer. That one I think is straightforward. 26 is which process is an example of a chemical change? And a chemical change, you're going to get something that is totally new. All right, and so steam rising from a boiling pot is just a physical change. It's just that it moved from a liquid to a gaseous form. So metal reeling, rusting in a damp weather. So rusting is a chemical process. All right, it is when iron oxidized and form rust. And so the formula for rust is Fe2O3. All right, and so alcohol evaporating again is just like a piece of wood shrinking as water dries out, the water evaporates from it. So it's just physical change. Now, 27. So which part of the eye focuses light onto the back of the eye? And so that we know that it is the lens, and lens is responsible to refract light, which means it will bend the light and direct it towards the retina. All right, and so when you talk about the back of the eye, we're talking about the retina, really. All right, so jumping onto, and please, as you go through, please make sure you know the functions of the different parts as well. All right, so question number 28 is what stimulus are taste receptors sensitive to? And taste receptor, they are chemicals in nature, just to mention. All right, they are chemical in nature. And so that's why they can actually make flavors, because they are chemical substances. Your tongue taste buds will pick up these chemicals that are responsible for flavor or different type of taste. All right, and of course, if you look at the other options, you realize that they really don't make no sense for taste. All right, so it's not can't be heat, it can't be touched. All right, absolutely not water. All right, question number 29. It said, let me go up a little bit. It said, which is a positive test for oxygen test? And oxygen, it can relit a glowing splint. All right, because I remember that oxygen is needed for combustion, and need for things to burn. All right, and so definitely off the bat, you know that A is correct. All right. Just to make a mention right here, it said blitted splint is extinguished, and that would be for carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide will put out flame, right? All right, turn lime water milky, that's carbon dioxide as well. Turn universe, well, in the universal indicator turns red. Once you have anything reddish, is normal acidic substances. All right, so let's go to 30. It said what causes a fuse to blow in a circuit? And what is happening there is high current. So once you have high current, it will cause it to blow, because remember now that a fuse is a form of a resistance, in a resistor in a sense. So when you exceed the resistance of a fuse, then the fuse will blow out by the current. All right, and so current is important. So remember, they were rated fuse is rated based on amperes, right? And current is measured in ampere. I just mentioned that. And what a resistance do is to oppose the flow of current. All right, so not voltage. All right. So question number 31. It said, which of these does not pose a risk of electrical shock? I said does not. Does not. All right. And so the keyword here is it does not pose a risk to electrical shock. And so cables with plastic insulation. So once it's covered with insulation, because the meaning of an insulator, it prevents the flow of current or oppose the flow of current. That means current cannot flow through it. And so if you have a frayed electrical cable, which means a broken cable, like you have a cable and part of it, like some of you use the phones and then eventually start to see the wire exposed because of the twist and turn of the wires. We say that the wire become frayed. And so if it's frayed, it can give you a shock. Loose connection definitely could give you a shock. Water next to an electrical outlet can shock you. That's dangerous, so you need to keep water away from electrical outlets or a matter of fact, electrical device in general. 32. It's an intrauterine device, which is IUD, and spermicide are examples of which type of contraception. And so IUD is a mechanical thing, is a physical instrument they put up into the uterus, as a name suggests, intrauterine, which is in the uterus, is a mechanical device. And spermicide is really a cream generally, all right. And so spermicides could also be pills, but generally spermicides are really cream or pills, and so therefore it is a chemical in nature. All right. So let's jump into question 33. And question 33 reads now that an iron nail is placed in a closed test tube containing gas X. The nail rust. So you put in a test tube that is closed and the nail will rust, and they say what gas is X. For rusting to take place, I think I mentioned it up top a little bit. So for rusting to take place, you need oxygen and you need water or moisture, right? And so therefore gas X must be oxygen. And so oxygen is the correct answer for this question. A point to note that rust is Fe2O3. So the nail will contain the iron in it. And so therefore for it to become oxidized, you need oxygen to form Fe2O3, all right, which is the formula for rust. For question number 34, it said the food chain shows numbers of organisms on a farm. And so you have corn, rat, snake, and auk. And it said, what is the total number of consumers on the farm? And so corn is a producer, and so all the others, which include the rats, snakes, and auk, they are consumers. And so therefore, the total consumer will be 50 plus 10 plus 3, which give us 63 consumers. All right, we have 1,000 producers. And a point to note, you need to know that energy decrease from the corn going up to the auk. You need to know that as well. We also have 4 trophic level, and a trophic level is each feeding level. So the corn is the first trophic level. Rat will be the second, snake will be the third, and auk will be the fourth. So there's a number of things you need to know about food chain and food web. All right. So please just make sure you review those. For question number 35, is a copper is a transition element used to make saucepans. All right. So you're making saucepans with the copper, and it's a which is not a property of copper, and you're looking for one that is not a property. And so even by constantly making a saucepan, right, it must be a good conductor of heat. It must be insoluble with water, because if dissolved in water, you can't cook with the pan, right? Imagine you throw water in the pot and the pot dissolve in the water. Low melting point, because of course you do not want the pot. You have a pot on the fire and it start to melt, right? Malleable meat, which means it could bend in the shape, which you mentioned earlier. So definitely low melting point is not a property right there, because the pot need to, or the saucepan need to able to absorb heat without melting. 36, and we getting closer and closer. An excess of which substance will promote an algal bloom in a lake. And remember, this process is called eutrophication. And so fertilizer, anything with nutrients, manure, those things will cause algal blooming or eutrophication. So option A is correct. Herbicide, oil, and pesticides will kill the microorganisms or the organisms that will cause eutrophication or kill the algae. So therefore, B, C, and D are not good options at all. 37. Well, question number 37 said, which of the following correctly describes a positive test for pure water? And This one, you really have to go through this one properly to really understand the answer. Because here's a salt residue left behind after evaporation. If you have salt remain after evaporate water, it can be pure, right? Because salt was in the water. It's a blue hydrated copper sulfate turns white. No. If it's pure water, it's not going to do it. It's not going to turn white. All it's going to do is just to dissolve or dilute the copper sulfate, right? So the color blue will remain. Boils over a range of temperature, which is not true because water boils at 100 degrees Celsius, pure water that is. All right, it's a white anhydrous copper sulfate turns blue, and because when you have white anhydrous, which means lack of water, which is a white copper sulfate, when you put water to it, it becomes hydrated, and now you turn into a blue substance. All right, so this one you really need a little time to go through to make sure you understand that one. All right, 38. It says sound vibrations travel fastest in which medium, and that one after that is solid. Sound go through solid faster than liquid and gas. All right, so the more compact the substance is, or the object is, the faster sound pass through it because of the closeness of the particles. All right, so sound vibration, because remember, sound is a vibration, so the vibration can pass from molecule to molecule much easier. For question number 39. And a matter of fact, just to make mention, that is why you can't hear sound in a vacuum, right? Sound can't travel in a vacuum, just to make mention of that. So the less particles you have or no particles at all, then sound travel much slower or none at all for vacuum. All right, for 39, it said which of the organisms named is an endangered species in the Bahamas? And this one is the oxbill turtle. All right, bonefish, I would say those are threatened, not necessarily endangered. All right. As a matter of fact, there are laws there to protect them from becoming the endangered species. All right. 40. Question number 40 is a student wants to make an electromagnet using some easy to find materials that are in the school lab. Which arrangement would make an electromagnet with the strongest magnetic field? So what can you do to make the magnetic field really strong? And there are two major things you could do. One is that the current can be increased, and of course you can have more turnings as well. So here, based on this, they ask us in terms of metal core and the power supply. So it's a soft iron core, not a strong or hard one like steel. So steel will be out of it, and you need a direct current. So therefore you need a DC, 6-volt DC, not AC. AC will not be good in producing electromagnet. Again, to increase strength of the magnet, again, you can have more turnings, and you can also have a higher current beside these two right here. All right, so let's jump into the next question real quick. For question number 41, it said, which is not a method of softening hard water? And what do you mean by softening hard water? You meaning to take away the minerals or dissolved minerals or anything that dissolve in the water. You take them out. More stuff that dissolve in the water is classified to be harder. All right. Soft water means little to no impurity. All right. And so chlorination, you actually adding chlorine to it, so that can be softening the water, right? It only make it be pure or safe for consumption, because the chlorine will kill the microorganisms, but it will not make the water soft. All right. And so that's the answer right there. It is not softening the water, but deionization, you're taking out ions, dissolved minerals from the water. So definitely reverse osmosis, simple distillation, those definitely take away the substances that dissolve in the water. All right, and give you pure water. 42. It's a cuboid block is made from a metal of density 2.5 grams per centimeters cube and has a volume of 20 centimeters cube. What is the mass of the block? All right, so let's talk about that now. And so just to make a note that density is equal to mass over volume. So therefore mass must equal to density multiplied by volume. So therefore 2.5 multiplied by 20 equals to 50 grams. All right, and so C is the correct option there. Again, you can also pause the video if you want and make sure you get the notes and also get the formula properly and make sure you understand the formula. I know we get that answer. For 43, it's a Billy shown a flashlight in Sally's eye. He noticed that her pupil constrict, which means the pupil gets smaller when the shine the light into her eye. He said, which characteristic of living organism did he observe? And the pupil is responding to the large amount of light into the eye. So the pupil gets smaller to prevent or restrict the amount of light into the eye. So what is that? Is irritability, which means you're responding to a stimulus. The light is a stimulus. The constriction of the pupil is the response. All right? And so that definitely is irritability. All right, and a matter of fact, if you look at the other options, you can realize that it don't even make sense to this question at all. All right, 44, it said many metals are extracted from the ores by heating the metal oxide with carbon. It said which metal cannot be extracted using this method? And this method, metal here is aluminum. And the purpose for that is, well, the reason, not the purpose. The reason behind this is because aluminum really requires a lot of energy, and so we use the blast furnace, which is a very expensive method of producing aluminum. All right, but the blast furnace is used instead, which means high amount of heat that that is required. For 45, it said two runners take part in a race. It said the graph shows how the speed of each runner changes with time. And so you notice the broken line is runner 1, the unbroken line is runner 2, and we have speed on the Y and time on the X. And so the question now asks, what does the graph show about the runners at time T? So at time T, the two lines, they're overlapping, which means they're the exact same at that very point right here. Let me just kind of highlight that. All right, so they're the exact same at that point. So both runners are moving at the same speed. Yes, because if you draw a line across here, you're going to realize, I'm just quickly just do that with the highlighted thing. So drawing a line across here would be the same speed at that point, right? All right, so option A is correct. Go through the next options, you realize they really don't make any sense. 46, it said, what is the function of a cell shown in the diagram? And this cell here is a root hair cell. And the purpose of root hair cell is really to absorb water and mineral salts from the soil. And so option A is the correct answer. All right. Let's jump into the next question, which is question number 47, which means that we're almost there. All right, so this one reads now that a fisherman on a dock is counting the number of waves that pass him in 1 minute. So if you count the number of waves that pass in 1 minute, you're looking at number per time. And so the amount of wave per time is actually the frequency of the wave. All right, if you think about it, number per given time is how many that generate in a given time. Is frequency, how fast are they going? Not how fast are they going in terms of speed, but how fast they are producing in a given time, and that is frequency. Because frequency is 1 over T, okay? And 1 could represent number of wave as well. All right, so it's counting the frequency of the wave. Now 48, it said which organ in the body changes the chemical composition of alcohol, and that is the liver. The liver detoxifies alcohol, all right, to make it less harmful to the body, and that's why you should not drink too much alcohol, because it will put pressure on the liver, and if the liver is damaged, then the body will become, well, easily poison itself, because you're unable to break down toxic substances, such as alcohol and also excess amino acids. All right, 49, is in which pair are both materials magnetic? And this one is iron and steel right off the bat. Aluminum cannot use to form magnets at all. Copper cannot. All right, so the only answer is iron and steel. For the last question, the question here reads that the diagram shows a longitudinal section of the heart. It's in which labeled chambers will the blood be deoxygenated. And just to make, I kind of shade the chambers right here, which will be on the right side. Remember, if you look at the heart, your left hand is pointed to the right side, your right hand is pointed to the left side. And so on the left side and the right side here, blood coming from the body by the vena cava, which is through here. So this is the vena cava, and it carries deoxygenated blood from the body into the heart. So therefore, P and Q are the chambers that have deoxygenated blood. And so yes, we're at the end of it. And I really wish you well on the examination. Thank you for watching, and please share this lesson, share this review. Please, if you haven't done so, subscribe, and encourage your friends to subscribe as well to promote and increase this channel performance. All right, so thank you again. Talk to you soon. All right, have a safe and blessed day.